93.6 Global Radio's return to Eldorado with Dave James.
Welcome to part 2 of my chat with Polly Perkins. Polly, in 1992, the BBC came calling for Soap in the Sun. How did your Eldorado journey begin?
My dear friend June Brown, who everyone knows as Dot Cotton in Eastenders, but she's done a lot more than that because I know. I've worked with her in nice plays. Anyway, she was coming over to have a holiday with me in my house. And there on the same plane was the Eastenders, the producer, and the writer.
How did they then get together with you and make Trish Valentine happen?
Ah, well, what happened was that they bumped into June on the plane, and June said, "Oh, I'm staying with my friend Polly Perkins," who they knew anyway. They knew of me, and especially Tony, because he's gay. God rest his soul. Both of them, they both died. They were wonderful. They were wonderful to me. Anyway, so we met up in a bar, and Tony and the producer, they were in a hotel up the road, Hotel Ankara. That'll tell you the area, but I can't remember myself. It's such a long time ago, you know. I mean, I'm trying to dredge this up. I mean, an old lady, darling. You know what I mean? My memory's not good enough for yesterday, let alone yesteryear. Anyway, so they all met up, and June met them on the plane, and she just told them where I was working, and they came, and it was a walk. The Hotel Ankara was a walk from the bar that I was doing the gig. They came to watch the gig, and they brought a lovely actress, forgotten her name as well. It's just terrible, this old age, darling. I'll have to have a lobotomy at some point. I can see it coming on. Then I'll have the breast reduction. Anyway, so she's coming to do the extras, that job there. So there's the two, producer, the writer, and the girl to do all the extras and things. She was a lovely actress, Chloe, her name was, fabulous. I worked with her before, beautiful actress. Anyway, so I come in to do the show. I have no idea what's going on. June's arranging all this. Them coming to see, and I'm standing on the stage, and it was at the time when we all had our own machinery, and tape went in, and the sound and everything I had to do myself. So I sang all the songs and chatted away, and some old gentleman kept sending me up baby shams, and I drank most of them. I think it wasn't a good idea. I think it was a good idea in the end because it was Trish. What I was doing was it wasn't doing me. I wasn't Polly Perkins. Or even Gillian Arnold. I was doing Trish, who I'd never met yet. Hadn't seen a script. But apparently, that's what they did. They wrote Trish with these clothes. Everything that I was wearing, everything I was singing, went straight into Eldorado. And that was it. Trish Valentine was born.
Well, let's just talk about the clothes for a second, Polly. I'm just going to take a quick picture, which we'll put on the video, of you right now, looking beautiful. But it's the shirt you're wearing right now.
I'll take the glasses off then.
So this lovely picture, which we're now looking at now, the shirt that you're wearing, that's Trish Valentine's shirt, isn't it, from Eldorado?
Absolutely, because when it all closed up, we were all allowed to take a bit of something with us. So this is what I brought, was my shirt, because it was in a lot of scenes. And here I am here with you in it again.
Without a doubt, that the character you played is one of the most memorable characters from Eldorado. We've talked about how you got involved with the show. When you actually got your first set of scripts through and you read about Dita.
I nearly died. I can't tell you, dear. I thought, I can't do this. I cannot do. I'm a woman of 40. With a young boy of 17, it's disgusting. I mean, apart from the fact I'm gay, you could have thought found me a girl or something. You know what I mean, darling? It was a bit much. And I think he thought, I mean, it was terrible for him. I mean, I think it was awful. He was okay, and he acted as adequately as he could. He was German anyway. I thought he did very well.
It's no good arguing with you. I just won't listen.
No, because every other word you say is another lie.
Okay, so if I'm so bad, so terrible, why do you beg me to come back last time?
You.
Oh, why, Trish?
Shut up.
Dita, I need you. Dita.
Stop it.
Maybe you don't find anyone else, eh? Not so young, I think.
You! Arrogant little pig!
Bekloppte Alte!
Get out!
You want me
I said, get out!
It was really disgusting, actually. The only reason it was sort of all right, it was because I didn't do anything madly, physical. And that was the nearest we ever got. In bed, I'd put my finger down his bare back in Trish's flat. That was that. There was nothing... you just can't do that. And it was a strange thing because I don't know if anyone will understand this. You may or you may not. When we were doing some filming came in, nothing to do with us, some other filming, and they were saying about, what does Dieter do? And he's going, I'm on the beach or something all the time or other. I said, he's into water sports, darling.
Oh, it just gets more inappropriate.
Sorry. Remember, darling, I do cabaret. And I'm not being funny. None of the people taking the photos and the filming, nobody there got it. I thought it was marvellous. They were all so innocent. The whole of the cast, the whole of the directors, the whole of the writers in Eldorado were innocent. I was far too sophisticated for the show, obviously.
But Trish had her part-time job in the video shop, and she was doing her singing and bits and pieces. And then the toy boy disappeared, and you had a serious romance, didn't you, towards the end of the show?
Yeah, that really worked, because not only that, I knew him when we were both extras in Charing Cross Road trying to get work. And it was marvellous working with him. And he's just very steadfast, very easy, and he played the villain like you should, quietly. And I thought it was marvellous. I mean, he's been back to Eastenders and back a couple of times, but he was an absolute pleasure to work with, and it was great working with a bloke, because Trish had to have a bloke, and the storyline was that we'd been lovers when we were young, and that was quite sweet, and he cries very easily. So when we did that first scene on us meeting again, he did, the tears just plopped out of his eyes, and it was really nice that we knew each other as well, and I really enjoyed working with him.
I've been waiting for you.
You took my breath away.
Then we're quits. You did just the same to me earlier.
Do you want to come in?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Mitz. Best girl. Mummy's home. That's a good girl, my Mitzi. That's your best girl. Now, this is Alex. He's a mate, so don't go for his ankles.
Hello. Mitz, is it?
Yeah, short for Mitzi Gaynor, isn't it, darling?
Nothing to do with the gloves.
No, South Pacific. Rosanna Bratzy, Mitzi Gaynor. I'm gonna wash that man right out of my head.
Long time ago.
Yeah, I'd be lost without my Mitz, wouldn't I? She makes me feel safe. I know she's only little, but it's the bark that counts, doesn't it? She seems to like you all right, don't she?
Well, they got the vibes, haven't they? You like me, she likes
You had these scenes with Derek, and there was real chemistry between the two of you.
I think it was because we'd known each other a long time as well, and he's very butch. And I was very female playing Trish, very, very tarty. And it's what a villain always wants. I know the East End well enough, in my past life, as it were. And, it's what, you're supposed to be. Trish is supposed to look like that. And that's why they dressed me so well, I thought, in Eldorado. They dressed me as Trish perfectly.
So the show grew into what it became, but by that point, was it already too late, do you think? Had it got past the point of not being savable?
No, the whole thing would have been savable, the whole thing. It was really popular. It had, what was it?
The figures you had at the end, TV shows now, which are considered successful, they would kill for those numbers.
I know. It was great. It was a great show. Everybody was upset. And we all know that it was nothing to do with the show. At the end, halfway through that show, it did a turnaround. They brought in a couple of decent characters, like Derek, which made a story for Trish. Otherwise, she'd been tarting herself around with more children, with a load of other boyfriends. And I know, dear, it was awful. And all of a sudden, it turned a corner. The ratings went up. But by then, to be perfectly honest, I think the BBC, the people who run BBC, are not to do with acting. The people who are running it, they're nothing to do with acting. Alan Yentob, well, what does he know about storylines? What does he know about what the public want? He goes out and has his own TV programme on BBC talking about something nothing to do with anything to do with that. How can you be in charge of something you know nothing of? And I'm afraid a lot in the BBC is exactly like that. It really is. And a lot of it relies that the best people in the BBC are the runners, the people who work backstage, makeup people, they all know their job, do their job. It's a pleasure as an actress working in the BBC, in a play or a sitcom or whatever it is. Those people who look after us, who we see, are amazing.
Another great on-screen relationship you had during Eldorado, I really enjoyed the scenes that you did with Jesse Birdsall.
Me too.
I mean, the dynamic
when he
there.
got me.
Yeah, by the throat.
By the throat? Oh,
I know.
I said, he said, because he's good, he's like me, he's a real actor. He said, I said, get on with it. You know what I mean? Just get on with it. And it was a brilliant scene, that. We should have had more of that.
You seem to be one of the few that I think Trish was maybe slightly intimidated by him, but she never seemed scared of him.
No, I don't really know what she really felt. I think she needed the job. You see, the thing, she was past her sell-by date. And Jessie was a lot younger. And so it was a funny, like, mother-son, in a way. They didn't write it like that, but that's how I felt it. And when he finally went like that, it was real. He said to me, Paul, I'm going to do it for real. I said, all right, I'm going to do it. Best scene I ever did.
It was a great moment.
I know. I like things like that. And there wasn't a lot of it, was there?
Come on, you can tell your Auntie Trish. Has she gone off with someone?
Trish, do me a favour. You know me better than that. If she had, would I be worrying about it?
I do know you, Marcus. I know you very well. And I know you've fallen for little Miss Magic Eyes. That's why you're wandering around the place like a love-struck schoolboy. You've fallen for her, and now you think you've lost her, don't you?
2 facts, Auntie Trish. 1, Pilar has not run off with anybody. 2, I don't love her, and I never have done. And as far as I'm concerned, she's good for one thing and one thing only. Just like you were once, before you got all old and wrinkly. Understand?
Jeez.
I want to talk to you about another really well-known character in Eldorado. We're celebrating the 25th anniversary.
Yeah.
One character is a real fan favourite, and she doesn't get mentioned that often. Mitzi. But was Mitzi your dog?
Yeah, my dog.
Not just a showbiz dog brought in for the show.
No.
Actually your dog.
Mitzi was my dog. That's why she was so clever. I used to, when I was doing that walk-through with my high heels, clip-clop, clip-clop, you have extras sitting on the side, and just when the camera went off me, I used to dump Mitzi Joe on anybody's lap, because I can't keep working with her under my arm and have a drink and a chat. I didn't have enough hands to do that. And she was just absolutely, but she knew she was a star. When I wasn't in a scene at all that day, Mitzi was, the car would come and pick Mitzi up at the camp. Mitzi, sitting on the front seat. I know, it was really, once, and somebody found out and wrote about it. Once they were supposed to put Mitzi in something to go somewhere, and someone was stealing her or something. And instead of I said, I'm not having the dog, taking the dog miles off somewhere. With who? Where's it going? I said, no. So they put in, those big dusters that you see, the microphones with the big dust. They put one of those grey and white in the cage. It wasn't Mitzi at all. Somebody wrote a letter saying, Mitzi wasn't in there at all, was she? That wasn't Mitzi. We can tell the difference between... Because she had fans. She had fan letters, Mitzi, yeah.
I have to ask, was it, apart from the moment in the cage you just mentioned, was it always Mitzi, or did you ever use a puppet?
No, it's always Mitzi.
Because there are scenes when she's so still and well-behaved, I'm thinking, is this real?
Well, she was my baby.
She's brilliant.
She was my baby, that's why. I'd had her from that size. Yeah. Didn't fit it in my hands. Yeah, just like the kitten that's now turned into a giant that I've got now. But no, she was so well behaved.
We've been best mates now for at least half a day, and I get the impression that you would have been enormous fun to be around on the set.
Mostly, but I have to say, some people weren't terribly keen on me for no reason at all. Perhaps it's because I was the star. Twinkle, bloody twinkle. No, seriously, there were some people, nobody was in awe of me in any way, shape or form. There was that. But once there were things in the paper about my sexuality, a few people started who were anti, simple as that. Everyone isn't the same. Everyone isn't open-hearted, open-minded, decent people, are they? People like to criticise and they like to say, oh, well, I'm better than you then type of attitude. Well, yeah, no, it wasn't always peaches and cream now, you know what I mean? There was ups and downs. But the strange thing is, as I remember it, it was right at the end when we were all leaving, and I gave a speech, and I just told them what I thought, how disgusting it was, which is, I forget that people like directors and people who are running the show and in charge often don't have a sense of humour. This had obviously gone past me, so I stood up, and everybody was there. They were all to explain to us that we were closed, we were finishing. So it was a big party, really, to tell us that we were no longer working, basically. I think I started the thing off by saying, now listen to the Star Darlings. Well, of course, they've got no sense of humour, have they? And I stood up and said that I thought it was absolutely disgusting. There's a cast that's just been cast of actors. It's just absolutely, the figures at this point, I think, were 7 million, something like that, as they finished us. I said, I've never heard of anything so ridiculous. You get 7 million bums on seats watching this show, and you finish it. And whose great idea was that? This is a success now. What are you doing? Throwing the baby out with the bathwater? It was just disgusting. It was just disgusting. And there was a lot of younger people, or people who just arrived in the show. What are they doing that? Bringing someone in the show to be sacked? It was very hurtful. Some of them were quite young. And it was, a lot of it was a mess, really.
So the show came to this rather abrupt end.
Yes, it did.
And it did kind of feel like we would, as viewers, we formed these relationships with these characters, and then we were just deprived of that.
Yes, exactly. You can't do that. What the BBC, and Alan Yentob particularly, don't realise, you're in somebody's front room. You're their friends. They love your character. They love or hate, but they have feelings. They're sitting in front of a story that's taking their mind off their either boring or terrible life or nice life, anything. But there's the change of seeing other people's lives I think it's a really good thing to do. You know, to see how the other half live, even if it's fictional.
You're not really going to go in there, are you?
Yeah, of course I am. Why not?
Because it's freezing.
No, it's not. It's just a little fresh.
Oh!
Talking of which, you and Alex seem very happy together.
Yeah, we are. Really are. Being with him, it's like coming home, really.
When Eldorado finished, what did you find yourself doing?
I was doing a television show called Polly's Trolley, and I was selling things to the television people. It was one of those things. Everyone thought it was campy. People mentioned it on the radio. I knew the producers for this, the director and the producers, two women who, they said, what are you going to do now? She said, you'll have to come and work with us. So that was great. So I went straight into Polly's Trolley, and they'd made it up, the idea of it. And I walked on, and I've got Just Roll pastry, you know, the Just Roll that's already made. So they'd got a whole table thing filled with slices of apple already, and the pastry was already for me to roll out. So I was making apple turnovers with the Just Roll, and I did it all. They were very pleased. We didn't put it in the oven yet because there was no oven there. So we did all that, the other. And my last line was leaning forward and say, well, darlings, you know you can always fake it with Just Roll. Well, the girls who bought me this, older than me, they fell about. Everybody fell about. Good one, eh? And then another thing, Christmas, they had Polly as Mrs. Santa Claus, with Santa Claus, not a trolley, a sleigh thing, with a big thing on the back with all the parcels. And I had to drive it. Now, of all the people in all the world, I'm not somebody who can just start something that don't know how to work it. But it didn't matter. So I put my foot down, and I got myself here at thing, and they were all very pleased at that bit. And then they said, well, can you go a bit further? You know what I did? I pressed the wrong one and went backwards out of the big doors of the studios with all those things. They kept that as an outtake. I just had a ball, and ups and downs are not important. When you're a real pro, which I am, and at my age, I mean, I was only in my 40s at Eldorado, but even so, I've been in the business a long time. I know that nothing matters that much. And if someone doesn't like you, well, if we can't take a joke. She said carefully.
On top of the world, aren't we, Trish?
Yeah, we are. Surprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then, years after Eldorado, the BBC came calling again. Eastenders. What happened?
June Brown, who's been a friend of mine for many years, and I have to thank her for Eldorado, for meeting the producers and everything, and she had the idea of thinking up having a sister, which she, as a family, she has a sister, and she had a baby brother as well. So she had a sister called Rose earlier on, but who never appeared, just part of her backstory. So she worked out that that's what she thought I would be good at. So anyway, so all of a sudden I'm now going to have an interview with the producer, the writers, the director, the whole in the office. So then they do a Q&A. Now, I've got to honestly say, in all my life, I knew about these question and answer things. I've never done one in my life. So we had all these questions about the character, about Rose. First of all, how old do you think Rose is? Oh, probably 70s. I said, but she's under the impression she's 35. So they fell about, because that was what Rose was. And I know a million Roses. And so I know what I'm talking about here. This is it. I do know. I'm not one, but I know about it. So then they said, why do you think she's so promiscuous? I said, well, yes. I said, she feels obliged. Basically, she's accepting drinks and she feels obliged to go home with one or two of them because she has drunk all their drink. She's a loving tart. And she's a lovely girl.
And you enjoyed your time on EastEnders, obviously.
It was really good, actually. A lovely part.
Showbiz runs right through your family. Your mum and your dad, yourself, and your two sons as well have got that artistic showbiz streak, haven't they?
Yeah.
Is it Tim and Toby?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are they doing?
Oh, Tim's done all these festivals for Pride and various other things. Isle of Wight Festival. He does everything like that and does a lot for charity. And that is at the moment what he's doing. And at the same time, he's obviously writing another musical, I would imagine. He never stops working. He's always producing something. There's always something new. There's a human doing, I think. Mind you, his brother's a human doing as well, because he's got a whole family, and he's a writer and a producer and has to work. And he's so we're all used to actually having children, except for Tim, his children are his songs.
You're obviously very proud of your two boys and what they've achieved.
Oh, God, yes. I love them to bits. My boys. Oh, what?
2003, you added author to your list of skills when you decided to write your memoirs.
Yeah.
What was it like sifting through all those memories and piecing everything back together?
I'll tell you something. It wrote itself. I have got a photographic memory as far as memories go. I mean, not as far as the script goes. That's hard learning for me, but then it's not my idea. But when you write about something, your life, it suddenly go, oh, yeah, I remember that. Because it's your own life. But I'm not a writer. I don't want to write fiction. And that I'm doing the next book. I know what I'm doing with it, but it's a bit more heavy.
So the first book finishes with the birth of your son, Toby, which obviously you're going to have to write the next book because you need to include Tim. And then all the stories from Eldorado and everything else. And when's this going to happen, Polly?
Tomorrow.
Polly, you still, of course, live here in Spain. You very much got your life here. And you share your beautiful villa near Coín with some lovely little friends who you've rescued, haven't you?
You mean the furry creatures?
Yes.
Yes, the Los Abandonados. Yes, we find them everywhere, or they find us. I had to get a gate put on when I first moved there because every time you turned around there was another animal. A Great Dane, Alsatian, you name it.
If I were to win the Euro Millions, like say the 150 million jackpot, whatever, and buy the site where the Eldorado sets still exist near your house, near Coín, and buy a TV production company and everything else, and bring back Eldorado, would you be Trish again?
Oh, wow, yeah. Oh, wow, I wouldn't mind being anybody. I think it's just marvellous to work, and 20 minutes from your own home.
But would you like to actually be Trish again?
Yeah, Trish getting old.
What do you reckon she's
Bless
doing
her.
now? What would she be up to?
Same as she always was, I think. And she's not going to change. There's a lot of me in Trish, and there's a lot of a lot of Trish in me. You know what I mean? Trish was much more well written than anyone realised, because a lot of writers write from fantasy. They make a person up. Well, just like in Eastenders, I didn't make up my character. They didn't make up the character. The character was there somewhere. Someone I knew, but I don't, but I just knew it. And it was just, that is the only way to get a character. And if I went back as Trish, I'd be Trish as I am now. I'd be this age, wouldn't I? Because Trish was 40, which was terribly old to be with that toy boy. I mean, that was embarrassing enough. But I mean, it would be really nice if to get Trish back as she is now with Derek, who would be as he is now. So we've got a lot in common. We could talk about EastEnders.
Well, if wishes were horses, we'd make it happen. Polly, thank you so much for joining me in the studio today. It's been wonderful to meet you face to face and chat, and thank you for sharing your stories with me.
It was my pleasure. I'm glad you enjoyed it. We must do it again.
93.6 Global Radio's return to Eldorado with Dave James.